17 years ago, the skies witnessed a tragedy that would forever change aviation. It was a routine flight, following a familiar route. Passengers and crew members boarded the aircraft with expectations of a standard journey, unaware that this would become one of the most devastating air crashes in recent history. Today, we'll recount the harrowing details of this tragedy, piecing together what went wrong and the lasting impact it had on air travel. As the flight began, everything seemed ordinary. The passengers were seated, some chatting, some quietly observing the clouds outside, while others simply rested. The pilots, both highly trained and experienced, carried out their duties with calm confidence. To the crew, this was just another day in the skies, following checklists, communicating with air traffic control, and monitoring flight conditions. The weather that day showed some turbulence ahead, nothing unusual, but enough to demand the crew's attention. The pilots began their descent, a standard procedure they had performed countless times. But as the aircraft neared its destination, things quickly began to spiral out of control. Without warning, a sudden jolt of turbulence shook the plane. This was stronger than anticipated, rattling the aircraft and catching the crew off guard. Passengers began to sense that something was amiss, feeling the sudden, unsettling movements as the plane struggled through the rough air. In the cockpit, things were becoming tense. Then, a small but critical warning light blinked on the instrument panel. The landing gear system was showing signs of a malfunction, an issue that could prevent the aircraft from safely touching down. The crew was trained to handle emergencies, but they knew time was against them. At this altitude, and with the destination in sight, every second counted. As they worked through the problem, other indicators began flashing. Systems tied to the flaps, critical for managing speed and descent, were also affected. The pilots quickly went through a series of emergency procedures, trying to assess the issue while preparing for a potentially compromised landing. They communicated briefly with air traffic control to alert them of the situation, but with each second, they were descending rapidly and the clock was ticking down. What had started as a routine descent was now a race against time. The pilots, still holding on to hope for a safe landing, attempted to manually deploy the landing gear. Their voices remained calm but focused as they ran through each emergency checklist. The malfunction, however, seemed to worsen with each passing moment. Critical systems were not responding, and the descent rate began to increase dangerously. In the cabin, the passengers grew uneasy. The once calm flight was now marked by uneasy whispers and worried glances. With the destination so close, they could see the city's lights below, unaware of the full extent of the danger unfolding. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, the pilots made a final attempt to slow the aircraft down, hoping to stabilize the descent. They prepared themselves mentally for what lay ahead, holding on to the slight chance that their emergency maneuvers might work. But the situation had become almost uncontrollable. The aircraft continued its rapid descent, with minimal response from the malfunctioning systems. As the runway loomed in the distance, the pilots had one last chance to prevent a catastrophic impact. Bracing themselves, they tried to pull the nose up, hoping to minimize the severity of the landing. And then, in those final, tense seconds, impact was inevitable. The crash was devastating. The impact sent a wave of destruction through the aircraft, bringing an end to what had once been a hopeful journey. Emergency response teams scrambled into action, rushing to the scene with all the resources available. The wreckage was engulfed in smoke and fire, and the sight was heart-wrenching for everyone involved in the rescue effort. In the days following the tragedy, investigators worked tirelessly to understand what had gone wrong. They reviewed data from the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder, listening to the final moments of the crew's communication, analyzing every second to piece together a complete picture. What they found was a series of events that highlighted weaknesses in the aircraft's system design, combined with an unfortunate sequence of mechanical failures. The investigation revealed that the issues with the landing gear and flaps had been caused by a rare electrical fault, compounded by turbulence that further strained the already compromised systems. This tragedy marked one of the deadliest crashes in over a decade, and the world mourned for the lives lost. For the aviation community, it was a call to action. Following the investigation, safety measures were reevaluated and strengthened. New procedures were implemented to help crews identify and address such rare but critical mechanical failures more effectively. Pilots received updated training on handling extreme scenarios like this, and engineers began re-examining aircraft systems to add more safeguards and redundancies. Though the incident was tragic, the lessons learned brought positive changes to aviation safety, changes that have saved countless lives in the years since. Today, the story of this flight stands as a somber reminder of the risks that come with air travel, as well as the resilience of an industry committed to continuous improvement. This crash serves as a testament to both the bravery of the crew, who did all they could in those final moments, and to the importance of vigilance in aviation safety. We remember this event not only for the tragedy it was, but also for the legacy it left behind, inspiring safer skies for everyone. Thank you for joining us in remembering this incident and honoring those affected. Let us keep learning from such moments as we continue our journey through the history of aviation.